Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Conversations, where it is about a dialogue and not a debate. Today we have in studio a few important guests this week that are also a part of 101 Elite Men. Last week we had Mr. Keith Grays kind of explain what 101 Elite Men is here in Amarillo, Texas, and our vision, our purpose, that of everything that we do each and every day. And at the end of the day, it is to enrich our community and to be able to give back and show what is possible here in Amarillo, Texas. And today on our show, we have Mr. Brandon Smith and Mr. Lawrence Gonzales. Today they will be talking to us and having a conversation about mentorship and how it's been such an important part in their lives and how they've developed as men because of others pouring into them. So today I'm going to we'll shoot to Mr. Brandon Smith and Mr. Lawrence Gonzales, and we're just going to, get them to introduce themselves a little bit, share a little bit of their background, and then we'll get into our interview.
So I'll start off. My background is I'm from Amarillo, born and raised. Graduated from Paladuro. I was fortunate enough to go off to college on a basketball scholarship, and I played at University of Michigan and San Diego State. And I played a little bit overseas, a couple of years in the G League. So been able to travel around. Basketball has taken me a lot of places, so I've been very blessed. But coming back home, my heart is, just to get back to the community that has always supported me and always been there, and just raised me to be the man that I am today. So I always want to give back and to our younger generation and make sure I'm doing my part to help facilitate their growth.
My name is Lawrence Gonzales. I'm from Lubbock, Texas originally. I'm here in Amarillo now. Served 8 years as a military police officer, another 8 years in adult and juvenile corrections, and now I'm back here in Amarillo doing nuclear security. But I'm very passionate about, my community, and now I've been able to link up with some gentlemen with the same likeness of mine when it comes to giving back, and just really try to, bring my experiences and my life stories, and push forward. And
that was just a quick introduction from a few of our guests that we have today. I going through it, and I forgot to tell you guys, I am RJ Soleyjacks hosting this episode of Conversations today. And today we're going to, again, dig deep into mentorship. And the first question that, we're going to go into is, we're going to talk to Lawrence and Brandon about their views on mentorship. Why is mentorship an important thing in their lives?
Well, I could kind of start off. My grandfather was the most inspirational man in my life, along with my uncles, because I didn't know my father. So I learned by just seeing what not to do, and just understanding that, he was the nucleus of our family, and he was the backbone. And by his works and his labor, man, I learned how to just be a man. And long before I went into the Army, long before I went into corrections, people just understood that I walked different, I talked different, just because what I saw him do. And it wasn't until juvenile corrections, it's when I really had to learn that these children, day in and out, are looking at me, and everything that I've learned, they're watching. Everything I say, how I talk, how I wear my clothes every day, they're looking for some type of discipline and some type of, normal livelihood of a man when he comes in, how he presents himself. And I didn't know that weighed more on me than any other job I've ever had, because these kids would say, "You're the only father figure I ever knew," and I didn't come into that thing understanding that. Because coming from adult corrections to this, you're trying to fix a kid that's been broke for 15, 16 years in an 8-hour period, and I didn't know he was watching me that much. And so I would have to dig deep and spiritually just say, "Lord, I don't want to guide these kids wrong. If I say something, if I do something, I'm held accountable, because these kids are facing charges that adults are facing, and they're going back home to broken situations." So it took a toll on me, and I think it's just so important that as men, every day, regardless of how tired, how weary you are, somebody's watching you. A young child is watching you. So mentorship, whether you like it or not, it's a heavy crown, but we have to wear it, And if we stop, then what? So I just feel this is vital. We have to.
And I agree with that. What else you just said, that's vital. That mentorship is vital. because the kids, they have to see it. You can't just talk about it. They have to see it and have to see that you are about what you talk about. And so I know me growing up, I associate a lot of stuff with basketball because that's what I did. The majority of my childhood, like basketball was my life. So I looked at a lot of the guys that were playing basketball, and they were, mentors for me. And that's a different form of mentorship. But at the same time, that's what helped mold me into the man that I am today, because it taught me discipline. And those guys that were playing basketball, they looked out. They didn't want me to be in the wrong crowd. They didn't want me to be doing the wrong thing. So that's the form of mentorship that the kids in our area need. So that's why with one-on-one elite men or group, it's so vital for our neighborhood, for those kids to see that day in and day out. Like LG just said, how we dress, how we look, always on point, and that's missing from I think our youth in our area, and so in our community, and so they have to see that daily. And as working, the position you work at, you see that every day as well.
All right, I appreciate those comments, gentlemen. And today we're going to be covering how mentorship allows more efficiency. It allows confidence. It allows us to learn from others' mistakes. It also allows for generational thoughts and perspectives to change. Mentorship is a very powerful tool that in society we have to use, especially when we have the youth that has to be so tactile. They have to see it, they got to feel it. They've got to know that that person is there so that they can buy in. So from here, we're going to move on, and we're going to go to Lawrence. And I just want you to talk about what is the most important lesson you've learned and how it's proven invaluable.
I mean, there's been so many lessons throughout my life that I've taken and I use every day as my tool chest. But faith, most importantly, is from my mother. That's what I've learned just through hardships and how we grew up. And most of my life, I've been in security, and it's always been discipline. And I've had to have that faith that things were going to work out, even though it didn't seem as such during different situations where there was a domestic issue that I had to respond to, or a lost child. I had to have faith in the situation, in the system, and in myself that I'm making a difference, because sometimes it just feels like you're not. There's just so much going on. So many people are hurting. So many people are in doubt. And here you are trying to keep this positive attitude. And I think one of the most, I was 18 years old. My first duty station, I was in Korea. And, I was a fresh MP, 18 years old. And I'm thinking I'm about to go out there and just get at it. And my first call was a lost kid at a school. And it just kind of blew me away. I was gung-ho, ready to go. And my first call, I'm talking to a kid on the playground. And I was like, man, it's bigger than me. And I was 18, I'm almost 40 years old, and I still remember that day. And I was like, you know what, I got to step back and understand that it's a selfless service. It's them before me, and that's hard. That's a hard pill to swallow, to know that you have to put yourself, the needs of other people before your own. Even if, I've been in many situations where crowds are throwing bottles and yelling because you have on a uniform and a badge, but you're still there to protect them if somebody were to try to hurt them. It's not an easy transition mentally for a person to be able to go through. But I think that situation, just throughout my career, I understood that this thing was bigger than me, and not just law enforcement or security, but just life in general. We prepare ourselves to do all these things, and then it just throws you a curveball, and it's like, are you well-rounded everywhere in your life, not just financially with your career? Because what you do for other people may have nothing to do with what you're great at. It may be something that you really are terrible at, but you have to learn, because this person is counting on you, wanting to jump off this ledge, wanting to hurt themselves. And I'm not a people person. I can't. But today you're going to have to be. And I learned that every day I'm going to learn something new. And once I understood that I don't know everything, and that even a child as small and meek and humble as this kind of just broke me down. Like, I grew that day. So I think that's one of the things I still hold and carry with me, is that the situation. So
I believe that's a very important tool to use whenever you are mentoring another child or somebody out there is using that personal experience to be able to help guide them? Because that story, I just learned a little bit more about yourself, and then also your viewpoint and your standpoint and your why. So now I'm going to go to Mr. Brandon Smith, and I just kind of want you to share a little bit of your background on a time that you felt that you failed, and how you bounced back.
Well, just think back to maybe the first time, you failed. Think back basketball, fifth grade. We were undefeated first 2 years. We go down to Lubbock and we play, and we're getting killed by halftime.
Mm-hmm.
The first time we had lost, And of course, as young kids, you cry and you just lose it. You lose all your composure. So I fast forward to I was playing in a minor league, and first time I really got cut. I had hurt my Achilles, and I was out for a couple of weeks. And when you start playing pro ball, if you're out for a little bit, especially in the minor leagues, they're not gonna they're not gonna rehab you and bring you back. They're gonna get someone else in if you're out for an extended period of time. So I remember getting called into to the coach's office, and the coach told me we had to cut you and bring another guy in. And that was the first time I got cut. So I rewind that, fast forward, 20 years later, how do you handle that?
Mm-hmm.
So I just moved to North Carolina, and my girlfriend and I, and she just got a job that day. So I come home, I come back to my apartment. I've been cut. We're about to, I had to come back to Texas, and she had news. She had just got a job that day. So we sat down, and she's like, "Yeah, I just got a job, so and so." And I was like, "Well, I just got cut. We're going to have to leave." So you have faith, and you lean on things that you learned from your mentors growing up, how to handle those situations.
Mm-hmm.
And, I learned a lot through basketball, as I said, but those helped me deal with life lessons. And when you're older and those things happen, you lose a job, just something happens, how do you bounce back? You have to rely on your past experiences and how you grew from those experiences. And so that's why the mentors and it's such a positive thing, because it helps young people to have those experiences, right? Mm-hmm. So when they get older, they know how to handle certain situations. And so, that's kind of, how I feel about just bouncing back and how people are able to do that, because it's tricky. It's tricky.
That just gets me thinking. And I would like for both of y'all to answer this next question is, how do you embrace risk taking?
So I think you have to be able to fail. So I think a lot of times, especially kids nowadays, or their parents are trying to keep them from failing. Mm-hmm. And I think that is really hurts our kids, because they don't know how to handle failure, because at some point in time, you're going to fail at something. Either be a job, school, something, you're going to fail out, sport, whatever it is. In your life, you're going to fail. And how you handle that, how you bounce back, is key, is what you really try to learn growing up. Mm-hmm. I think how to handle adversity, how to handle failures. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely correct, man. I mean, because I think society as a whole is kind of taking this toll on children, thinking that you got to hide everything inside, and it's not okay to come out and say, "Hey, I got a problem. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can pass that test," mm-hmm. or "I don't think I'm as good as they expect me to be." Just kind of case in point, that young kid, college kid that was getting ready to go off to college, play football, and stepped in front of that train. He had pressure, but he wasn't able to release it and let nobody know. But they had all these high expectations for him, but nobody asked him what was his expectations. Mm-hmm. And just reading that story, and I'm just asking myself, nobody stopped to ask him, what do you want? Mm-hmm. Everybody has all this weight on his shoulders, and they don't expect you to let it out. Just tough it up. Go. And he was hurting. Mm-hmm. This kid is hurting. He's a young kid, and he's given the pressures of an adult. He has all these people counting on him. He's like, if I fail, maybe everybody else fails. I can't. But his only outlet was to take his own life. Right. And I just felt like somebody had to stop and say, "Son, this is all about you, and this is not about nobody else." Mm-hmm. You go to whatever school you want to go to, mm-hmm. whatever makes you happy. That's going to truly breed success in the end. Whether you play ball or you leave, but as long as you know you did it for yourself. Mm-hmm. And I just feel these kids these days, they have no identity.
Mm-hmm.
Like every 15 minutes, every 20 minutes, there's something new trending. So they don't know who to be when they look in the mirror, right? Because it's going to get old. And they never find who they really are at the end until it's too late. I mean, working in juvenile corrections, I got kids that's facing 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
15 years old. I'm only 39. I can't tell you how to do 30 years. Because that's something I can't even gather in my own mind how I'm going to do that type of time. And here these kids are trying to figure themselves out, you know, in a courtroom. They don't know who they really are. And when everybody's gone and put up, they come to you at the desk and like, can we sit and talk? Like, son, how often do you sit and talk to mentors?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I never really had one. Well, let's talk. And they're talking about every other thing but the streets.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, see, you're a kid. You just didn't know you were a kid. Nobody gave you time to be a kid.
Mm-hmm.
All these things you were telling me got skipped over and passed. And the things that I hear you say, that's how grown men talk with no destination.
Mm-hmm.
But now that you sit here with me, we're talking about college. We're talking about all these things that you should have had in front of you. But they were afraid to fail, and they just jumped into this lifestyle because everybody was at the top, so they thought.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're at the very bottom, sitting in that room by themselves, trying to figure out how am I going to do this time, because I put myself in a situation to where this is real now. And some of them, unfortunately, still didn't understand it was real, you know. And I, you know, I hate to carry that on too long, but that it's all right to fail, but it's not cool in this generation's eyes to be weak, you know. So.
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing those thoughts and ideas with us today. The last thing that I kind of want to talk to you guys about in this segment is what type of mentor do you see yourself as?
For me, just something like when I saw growing up, the older guys, they used to always pour into us. We would always go play against them. They would always come up to PD and play against us on Saturdays. I could vividly remember us going up Saturday mornings. You know, we'd have practice, and Coach Secker let the older guys play against us, and they wouldn't take it easy. They beat us up, but they wanted us to get better. And I remember that because, you know, we had some high profile guys, you know, come, you know, from the city come play with us, and that meant a lot that they, you know, cared that much, that they wanted to see us succeed that much, that they would spend time with us. So that's a thing that I want to do, just spend that time. And kids, when they see you spend that time, that's when they build trust and they know that you truly care about them. So that's the type of mentor I want, just someone that they know that I care about them.
I think just because my job, and I've always been in security, I'm just on that law side. Not that you got to be perfect, but you got to walk a straight and narrow, and it's not easy. You know, it was crazy because my coach, even when I was in 8th grade, would say, you know, you're gonna be a lawman, and I'm like, why y'all would say that? He said, because the first 3 letters of your name is LAW. So I'm like, oh my God, man! But here I am, almost 40 years old, and this, I can't shake it. And it's just a discipline thing, because that's what my grandfather showed me. But even being, you know, like I said, in that cluster with those kids, they were more happy when they had a guy in there that was strict, but it was a different type of love and respect for them. But when you get the guy that really didn't know how to deal with the kids, they were scared because some kids were weaker than the others. So they knew they would get picked on that day. But when I come in, they felt more secure because there's a certain way we're going to run this cluster. Everybody's going to respect each other. And here you leave, and then 2 days later, you get this report that there's fights. Well, you don't fight when I'm in this cluster. Why? Because I set the standard of discipline in here. And so once I understood that, and it wasn't something I was trying to be, it's just like, man, I guess this is just who I am. And these kids see me as that. I come in the door and they straighten up, you know, and they're doing the homework. I'm like, man, relax. But I understood that I was kind of appointed to this thing with you know, with the law side of it. And I was telling those guys, it's not just that. I just have respect for myself. And out of respect for myself, I expect you to respect yourself. And it's nothing awkward about that. It is for you because you live in this capsule of just destruction and everything's so negative. But when I'm around you, that's what I'm trying to break. I'm trying to mold you into this disciplined young man to think for yourself, if nothing else. You know what I mean? At the end of the day, because you guys are all about just what's in and what's not. So I think for me, I'm just kind of that law, that hands down, like, hey, but you got to put boots to the ground. It's time to go. It sucks not going out and drinking and smoking and being at home doing your homework. But that straight and narrow, that's what you got to be. And I think I'm that straight and narrow. Like when everybody's told them and went around the bush, I'm going straight at you. This is how it's going to be, son. Mm-hmm. This is what you're looking at. This is the bed you made and you got to lay in. So I think I'm that straight and narrow side, And I'm not running from that. So it may push some people away, but at the end of the day, we got to be straightforward because we're losing too many children and just youth in general, where people are not just being frank.
Mentorship is, if you've heard anything that these men have talked about, the key number one thing that kept coming back time and time again was that relationship piece, that human connection piece. To become a mentor, to be a mentor, you have to be willing to put yourself out into situations where people need leadership. And this is a time and space that more than ever, we need leaders. We need people to step up and not be afraid to ruffle some feathers, just like Lauren said, the lawman. He's going to give that path, that straight and narrow, that security blanket, that safety that individuals have, that they need to be able to operate within the world and the parameters that have been set forth for us. So I just want to thank you guys for coming on today and sharing your backgrounds and your experiences so that others out there can know that they're just like us. They're just they just need to know that the world needs them. And I'm going to tell you, mentors out there, if you're seeing this, we need you. We need you to step up. We would love for you to holler at us at 101 Elite Men. We've got Facebook, we've got Instagram, Twitter. So please holler at us because we need mentors. We need people to step up, and we would just like individuals from our community who are ready to pour into others to raise up and start pouring their glasses into others so that we can continue to grow this thing. So I think that's it, right?